things are getting worse and worse. And some people believe that at one point there's just going to be a moment, a happening, where there's some sort of societal collapse. And I'm here to tell you that I don't think that's going to happen. I'm a Canadian, my name's Greg, and with the tabling of the Online Harms Act, which may potentially take away freedom of speech in Canada, I've decided to start doing daily uploads using my free speech while we still have it. I posted about the Online Harms Act last week, Bill C-63. They want to have thought crimes. They want to redefine hate speech. They want to throw you in jail, put you on house arrest, have you wear an ankle bracelet if you say something that could be construed as hateful, or someone can anonymously report you. And this was one of the replies. Circulon, good account. I counter with hoping it goes through and immediately targets political dissidents on a massive scale with a violent iron fist and brutal sentences. Let's just get this over with already. This is a accelerationist argument, and this idea that if the government is brutal enough with their authoritarianism, surely people will do something about it. I do not think that's going to happen. I think that what we saw with COVID, especially in Western countries, people who are addicted to their phones and they're addicted to leisure and they're apathetic politically. The majority of people are very apathetic politically. They just kind of want what's good for them. That's it. They don't have time to care about politics. If it doesn't affect them, they're not going to care. And we saw political dissidents being thrown in jail after the trucker convoy. We already saw this. We saw truckers beaten in the street, horses trampling on people. And what happened then? What was the big kind of resistance to that? Sure, a lot of people got upset and were saying, and it certainly animated people and pushed people to care more. But it's a small group, very, very small group. And, I'm just thinking of the time when Jeremy McKenzie got thrown in jail multiple times. What happened was there this huge, uprising of people who were like, that's enough? I mean, his fans were doing that to an extent. But, it's that, this big sort of tipping point that this person is referring to, it didn't happen. It didn't break through into normal people. You could say maybe that the trucker convoy was a little bit, that got a lot of people into the fold. But, this idea that there's going to be a tipping point where, the government goes too far and there's some big point. I don't see that happen. And if you're a corrupt regime, you don't want that to happen. And in many ways, the convoy was potentially a miscalculation for this corrupt regime. And I'll tell you what I think is much more likely to happen and what I think the plan is. Instead of there being this sort of big moment, this big sort of accelerationist, and that's when things changed, I think there's going to be a slow decay. I think we're seeing a slow but sure decay. If you're someone who's concerned about a civil war, a lot of people talk about that. I think we're already seeing what the civil war is going to look like. When people are beaten up in the street, or, there's murders on the subway, there's more and more violence happening in the streets just randomly, not really connected to any sort of, sometimes it's connected to some sort of political kind of conflict or whatever. But that's what the decay looks like. That's what the so-called civil war, I think, will look like. There's just going to be more and more violent incidences like that. There's going to be more and more sort of, things are going to be increasingly unsafe. But the point is, because it's a slow decay, the people still sleep. The masses still sleep. They're not going to care about, they're not going to see it like that. They're just going to say, oh, it's just another violent conflict. And same thing when it comes to arresting dissidents, getting the people that the corrupt regime doesn't like out of the way. When you think of January 6th, when you think of even COVID, when you think of the trucker convoy or these other big protests happening in Europe, Sure, there is a population of people that are becoming more radicalized. They're becoming more politically active, and that's a great thing, and that's something that is definitely valuable. But this idea that there's going to be an event that's going to change everything, and like there's going to be societal collapse, like I really, really, really don't think that is ever going to happen. Because this idea of societal collapse implies that normal people are going to be super radicalized and completely lose trust in everything to do with the establishment. And it's going to be like, that would be nuts if that happened. They would lose that control. They would lose that sense of authority. And they don't want that. With the slow decay, they get to do everything that they want, with specifically the political dissidents, January 6th, trucker convoy, with it, as that happened, as these arrests happened, they still have such a control over narratives on TV and through the media and through these fake politicians that, everybody thinks it's fine. Everybody thinks that there's something happening. Somebody's going to take care of us. Right. So this idea that there's just this collapse that's going to happen, and then things are going to ramp up. I really do not think that is in the cards. And to bring it back to the Online Harms Act, someone also said, I suggest we celebrate Online Harms Day by anonymously reporting each other. It would be great to have the government investigating a million claims that would never be resolved. For those who don't know, with this new Online Harms Act, Bill C-63, you can anonymously report people and try to find them or arrest them based on, receipts you find online, based on angry memes that you tweeted or whatever. But I want to address this idea too, because it's honestly any version of, hey, maybe we can use this bill to our advantage, or hey, maybe we can use this bill against leftists, or hey, maybe there is merits to this bill. No. We already know the authoritarian ambitions of the Canadian regime. We know that from the aftermath of the trucker convoy. I don't understand why, especially people who have seen that, give the Canadian establishment or these corrupt politicians the benefit of the doubt. Hey, maybe they're actually trying to do the thing. Maybe they're actually trying to create a bill that's actually going to protect children. No, that's just the cover so they can gain power and control people. Why are we giving them the benefit of the doubt? That's bothered me so much since the trucker convoy. Even True North and Rebel News will give these corrupt bureaucrats, who they write reports about constantly that they're corrupt bureaucrats, but no, they're going to give them the benefit of the doubt once again. Well, maybe they're actually writing this bill because they actually want to do something about it. No, they want more power. They want more power so they can silence their political opponents. Duh. The people who are actually capable of potentially creating a meaningful resistance that could exist in the world of politics, that could reach normal people, these apathetic people, the leaders, the people with charisma, who could potentially, I don't want to say overthrow, that's probably not a good word, but who could potentially poke enough holes in the establishment to drain the swamp. These charismatic people, the establishment wants to shut these people up, make their lives a living hell, and Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act, is the perfect tool to do that. And this idea that all of a sudden these apathetic people, all of a sudden these apathetic masses are just going to start caring all of a sudden, that's not going to happen. And especially not when the people who are in control, when the people who are passing these bills to get more control, it's when they get more control and then they can just use more state forces to intimidate people, they're going to make sure that they're going to try not to overplay their hand. We kind of have an advantage because the trucker convoy happened and they did overplay their hand. The problem is a lot of the people who we think should be championing that and leading that are actually kind of just part of the establishment, it turns out. Of course, I'm talking Pierre Poilievre. Of course, I'm talking Rebel News, True North. They seem to be perfectly comfortable having Pierre Poilievre in control, who to this day has really not even said a word about the trucker convoy and what it was actually about. Anyway, I'm going to try to make daily videos like this talking about Bill C-63 and how we need to stop. Because when it comes to freedom of speech, if you don't use it, you'll lose it.